This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Any questions for me before we get started? Anyone, any questions? Anyone, any questions as such? Again, over the period of this particular course, you might get a lot of doubts when you're practicing it. So please reach out to me over this particular email, just in case if you have any questions. Please note it down. This is classes Azure DevOps at gmail.com. Please reach out to me over this particular email, and when you're reaching out to me, please make sure to mention what is your name, which batch you belong to, and what is the error that you're facing, or what is the issue that you're facing. And if you could give me some screenshots of the issues that you're facing or the errors that you face, it'll be helpful for me to, let's say, help you out. Any questions, guys? Anyone, anything before we get started? Okay, anyone, guys? Any questions? Anyone, anything? Go ahead, please.
Can you please bring that email ID in the chat? Will not do.
I'll ping the email ID in the chat also. Just a second. And here you go. This is the email ID. You can reach out to me over this one. Yes, offline, you had a question. Yes, go ahead, please. Correct. Contributor will not have the user management. Under the user management, the main factors that are going to come is that adding the user, deleting the user, changing the password of a user, or let's say modifying the settings of a user. All these things are going to come as a factors under user management as such. Yes. And guys, if you're in the back and you're not able to see, you can use this particular space. You can use this alley. You can shift yourselves here. You can come forward and use it. Give me just a minute, guys. We're just adjusting things in the offline. So just give me a minute.
Excuse me. I have a doubt.
Go ahead, please.
If I created a resort at role assignment at subscription level,
Okay.
I want to change the role assignment.
Okay.
I created that contributor as a
Okay.
role assignment.
Okay.
I want to change that from contributor to reader. How
Okay.
I will change it?
So how do you change it? Is that, let's say I have someone, a user called DevOps Master out here. So the
Yes.
question here is that I have a user, I added him as a contributor.
Owner.
I want to change his role.
Owner is
So
there
first,
here.
yeah, meaning you'll have to first deny the assignment. You'll have to remove the role and then re-add it. So it's
Okay.
deleting and then re-adding it out. You cannot modify the existing role. You'll have to delete it and then re-add it out here. Does that answer your question? Let me see the developer
Adding.
and assign roles. You can right now you can also go ahead and add the role assignment here and remove the existing role assignments as such. So you will have to, if you're, let's say, doing a role assignment at a subscription level, you'll have to delete the
Yes.
role and then re-add it out there.
Okay.
Yeah, are there any roles rather than
I'll
contributor,
just come back.
owner, and reader?
Other than, sorry, are you asking, are there other roles apart from owner, contributor, and a reader? There are
Yes.
multiple roles apart from owner, contributor, and a reader. Owner, contributor, reader, they just get ended here. But after that, you have something called ACR delete. You have a lot of things out here. Specific resource roles. We'll talk about that
Okay.
when you create a resource. That will make more sense. That's the reason I'm not introducing these roles at this point.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, you had a question. Sorry. hmm Denied assignments meaning whatever assignments that I denied till now, like whatever I removed, or these things come under this one called deny assignments. So I can have a lot of things out here. I can click all these things and I can remove. Once I remove it out, it'll come under the denied assignments. So whatever you denied till now, all these things come under this particular area called deny assignments as such. Any yes, guys? Any questions, guys?
Yes. So
Mhm.
if the role is deleted, will the activity log also gets deleted? Whatever the actions or the job done by a
No,
particular role.
no. The activity log doesn't get deleted. If the role gets deleted, the activity log will still stay. What do you mean by this is that if
No,
you go to
my question is like even after a role is deleted, can we see what all the works done by the particular role?
yes, yes,
Okay.
you can. Meaning, if a user goes ahead and adds something into your portal or does any change onto the portal, everything gets tracked in something known as the activity log out here, which will give you a good amount or a fair amount of analysis on what we are doing, why we are doing this, and it will give you a lot of events out here. And this activity log exists on the subscription level, the resource group level, a lot of things out here. So for example, 15 minutes ago I did some update, so it's tracking all these things out. So the question here is that if a user is deleted, will I still be able to see these logs? Yes, you'll still be able to see these logs. There is no way you can go ahead and delete these logs. Even as an owner, I can't go ahead and delete all these logs. These are system generated logs, I cannot delete them out.
Okay.
Is this a place where we can find all the contributors or all the readers or all the owners, whoever created or deleted, we can see here, right?
Yes, this is the place where you see all the timestamps of the activities that were performed on your subscription. If you want to, let's say, go and drill down at a resource group level, let's say I have a resource group, you want to check what is being done on this particular resource group, you can go ahead and look at the activity log at the resource group level as well. So this is something that you have an option, resource groups and all these things. So you can now filter roles, you can now see what are all, let's say, the activities being done at a resource group level or at, let's say, a subscription level or so on and so forth.
Okay.
And guys, are you able to hear me? Is it okay today? You're able to see? Can you come in the front? If you can occupy this chair or something like that. If you're not able to see the screen, but
I
it'll
can
be a
open
little
it.
crammed out here. So if you're not able to see, just come a little front out here. Okay. You can take that chair and come front. Okay, just give me a second, guys. I'll just resume the class. Just give me a second. Okay. Any questions, guys? Any questions before we begin the class session today? Anyone?
Hi,
Any
Kiran, I
questions
have a
today?
question.
Go ahead, please.
Like every subscription has a X number of credit points.
Hmm.
So when a new user is added to the subscription, does
Okay.
the user have the same number of credit points like or the initial credit points shared amongst them?
The user will have the same amount of credit points. Meaning, if you're talking about a free trial, and if you're adding a user onto your subscription, will the user have the same credit points, like 14,500, whatever you're getting? Yes, any number of users who are added to your subscription will have the same credit points. Meaning that is a pool which all the users kind of share it out. So it's not for a particular user; it's a pool that all the users kind of share it out here. Okay, so I now have a question for everyone: is that when we are talking about a cloud like Azure, now in the first class also we were just telling what is a cloud and all these things, right? So when you're talking about a cloud, what do you think is the main purpose or the basic purpose of a cloud? The primary purpose of a cloud as such. Sorry, storage. Storage, because when I say it's a cloud, normally we think it in the terms of data, right? We think that it's in terms of data out there. So the basic purpose of any cloud, guys, can you please go on mute, please? Okay.
On demand,
So
we will get the resources.
on demand, you get the resources. Yes, correct. And you use the resources to store something. So store some data or something, which is a basic, which is, let's say, the primitive purpose of the basic purpose of the cloud as such. I'm sorry.
And we can scale up as per our requirement
Yes,
when
you
needed.
can scale up as per your requirement. Yes, scaling and all these things. Yes, that's true. But what I'm now talking about is, yes, from a data perspective, the purpose of a cloud, whenever you talk about a cloud to someone, it's that, you know what, it gives you unlimited storage. You can store your data and all these things out. Now you are using Azure, and now you're telling, okay, fine, I want to store my data out here. Now Azure is going to come back to you with a question telling that, what type of a data do you want to store out here? Then what would be your answer? What is the type of data that you want to actually store? Files, videos, images, messages, documents, whatever it is. But Azure tells you, you know what, be a little more specific, tell me a little technical. And normally there are two kinds of data that you can store, two types of data in a very broad classification: structured and unstructured. Okay, so structured data and unstructured data out here. When I talk, it's a structured data. Data is held in the form of rows and columns. Meaning, let's come back there. Let's talk about this. Now, this on the left hand side of my screen that you see out here, this is called as a structured data, wherein you have the rows, columns, and all these things. Why is it called a structured data? Let's take it with an example. I have an employee called John. I give you the name of the employee. You're the administrator of this particular organization. From this table, can you tell me, if I give you the name of the employee, can you tell me what is the meeting time of the employee or the email ID of the employee? Can't you? Why can't you? Okay, I give you the email ID of John. Okay, I'm telling you one specific email ID of, let's say, some employee. But if, let's say, I give you John, there are multiple employees John. Yes, that's right. But you'll be able to see that, okay, fine, John Adams or something like that has a meeting time called 1:30 or something like that. Or to be more precise, I give you the email ID of this employee. Can you tell me what is the name of the employee and what is the meeting time of the employee? Right? Which means that you are able to relate this data, a piece of data, with the other pieces. So you are able to establish some kind of a relationship. This is also called as a relational data. And traditionally we use, or let's say we store relational data in something called DBMS, database management systems. SQL, Cosmos, Cassandra, Mongo, a lot of things that are available out there in the market to hold structured data. But there is also something known as an unstructured data, which is more prevalent in nature, which is more common in nature than a structured data out here. Let's say files. Let's say I give you the photo of an employee and ask you to tell me what is his meeting time. Probably not. You won't be able to, let's say, identify that. But I need to store all these images and etc. somewhere, right? All the unstructured data also needs to be stored in some specified service in the cloud. And I'm now bringing up a service called as an storage account in Azure. A storage account in Azure is a master to hold unstructured data. This is a specialist who holds unstructured data, which is in the form of, let's say, Word documents, PDF documents, files, images, videos, whatever that you can think of, which doesn't have a relationship. All those things is held in this particular, let's say, device called as a storage account out here. So let's understand and see what is the storage account, how do you hold the data, and kind of technicalities related to that. But to create a storage account, again, you will need a tenant in Azure, subscription in Azure, a role assignment in Azure, and very importantly, a resource group in Azure. You can hold your storage account inside a resource group in Azure as such. After this comes your storage account here. So it's a parent-child relationship, meaning under one tenant, you can have multiple subscriptions. Under one subscription, you can have multiple resource groups. Under one resource groups, you can have multiple storage accounts. This is how the tree kind of forms. So let's go here into the Azure portal. And I now want to go ahead and create a storage account. Yes, resource groups, yes, but I will create a resource group from the storage account only. So I'll also look at that. So I'll type in storage accounts. Again, you can type in storage accounts, or you can come down here and say storage account service, any which ways, or you don't have it in this screen. This is recently used. So just go ahead and type in storage accounts out here. And now it says create a storage account to hold up to 500 terabyte, use it for general purpose and all. And it's telling use NoSQL data store. NoSQL meaning data which has no relationship with itself. It's an unstructured data. We also call this as NoSQL data out here. So let's go ahead, try to create a storage account. Again, how do you create it? You can hit this create button out here, or you can just come down and say create a storage account. Anything which will, I mean, anything kind of works. And the very first thing it's asking me is that what is the subscription you want to hold the storage account in, and what is the resource group you want to hold this in. I'll say the subscription is Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. In your case, it's going to be something like free trial. Resource group, I'll say I have already 2 resource groups. I can use that, or I can create new from here. I can do a create new from here, and I can say this is a first storage RG. Done. Created the resource group. Just come down and it has much more details for you. It's telling now tell me what is the instance detail. In Azure, each and every service is called as an instance. Storage account is also known as an instance out here. It's telling, can you give me the name of a storage account? Can anyone help me with the name of a storage account out here? Can anyone give me a name that I need to name for this particular storage account? Any name? Let's say storage. The thing here is that the point that I want to try explain is that you cannot give any name out here. You just cannot randomly declare any name. There is a naming convention you need to follow for a resource like a storage account in Azure. That's which, or this is what brings me to something known as a naming convention in Azure. The naming convention that I need to follow while I create a resource called storage account is that the name has to have minimum of 3 characters. It cannot be 2, cannot be 1, it cannot be below 3. It's 3 to a maximum of 24 characters. You cannot exceed 24, you cannot, let's say, recede 3. It should fall between 3 to 24 characters out here. Second thing I'm now telling is that the name cannot have special characters. Like commas, at the rates, hashes, whatever it is. Space is also considered as a special character. You cannot have a space also. So if I do storage A, something like this, do you see field can only contain lowercase letters and numbers? Name must be 3 to 24 characters. And third, very importantly, this name should be globally unique. Same like an email ID. You cannot use someone else's email ID, right? In the same way, you cannot use a storage account name that is already used. This has to be globally unique name that you need to configure out here. So it has to be globally unique out here. You cannot even use caps. There's no caps. That's the reason it's telling it contains lower letters only and numbers. Numbers are allowed, but you cannot use caps. So it's case sensitive. So then if I am in an organization, then how do we, kind of create our names out here? Like, how do we do that names? How do we construct our names? Something like this. Let's say, or let's put this in. Let's say that I want to create the storage account for a team called development team. I will start the name with something called dev, for a team called development. And this particular developer is working for a project called IRCTC. Let's say IRCTC. I'll say it is IRCTC. And let's say this developer wants the storage account to be created in a region called East US2. I'll say EU2, East US2. So do you see this? It's something, let's say, globally unique. So I'm now constructing something to be unique out here. And just in case if this is not unique, I'll just go and add some number like 000 just to make it unique. Just to make some number unique and etc. And my next storage account can be 001. Third storage account can be 002, so on and so forth. I'll just copy this out, paste this in, and now I don't get an error. now telling there is no error, that okay fine, the name satisfies all the conditions, that it does not have a let's say special character, the name is greater than 3, less than 24, name is unique. Says okay, great, you're good, go ahead, proceed with this region of the storage account. Again, the same thing what I've explained yesterday. Now this kind of let's say kind of takes an importance, because you're storing data and people want to, let's say, look at that data, right? So it's very important that the region that you select is closer to your business, it's geographically stable and politically stable. Again, who decides this region? If you are working for a client, yes, architect. If you are working for a client, the architecture team of the client decides this. Or if you are working for your own organization, it's an in-house project, you will have an architecture who's deciding this. So this is something that is decided. So let's say I go ahead and take a region called East US 2. I'm just saying East US 2 out here. Now coming down to something known as the performance of your storage account out here. It's telling there are two modes of performance, one being a standard, the other being a premium. I'll just put it in, let's say, a very layman's term. Now this is a storage device. Let's say I am purchasing a laptop for storing my data. I'm going to a shop and I'm telling, you know what, I need a laptop to store my data. Do you think what's the first question that let's say the storekeeper will ask you? Sorry, configuration, correct. In configuration, he'll tell you that, you know what, I offer two things. I offer something called a laptop with SSD, solid state drives, or a laptop with HDD, hard drives. I go out of curiosity and ask him what is solid state drive, what is HDD. The only thing the shopkeeper will tell you is that, you know what, if you use a solid state drive, the data retrieval and the data injection will be very fast, because it doesn't have a lot of moving parts and a lot of things out there. Again, that's altogether a different let's say area that I don't want to venture into right now. So right now I'm coming to Azure and I'm now telling, you know what, I need a storage device. Azure is also using some kind of a disk, right? Azure is now asking what is the configuration of the disk. Is it a standard? Is it a premium? If you go for a standard, you will get a HDD. If you go for a premium, you will get an SSD. Is it costlier? Yes, of course it is. Because a HDD laptop is a cheaper one than an SSD laptop. Same way, Microsoft is now asking what kind of, let's say, storage you want, and it's telling it's recommended for most of the general scenarios, recommended for scenarios that requires low latency, meaning data retrieval is quick enough. I'll now say, okay, fine, you know what, I am still good with standard. To create it, I am good with standard out here. And if you do not know about what is this, you have an I button here. It says determine whether you want, let's say, premium block storage and all these things out. You can come here and say learn more. This will take you to the documentation. This is how we read the documentation. If you don't understand something, it'll tell you what are the types of storages, what is the let's say account that you have, and
Excuse
it
me.
also tells you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, initially if we select the standard and after that
Mhm.
can we move it to the premium?
Premium, initially if you select a standard, can you move it to a premium? Again, coming back to your laptop example, initially you purchased a HDD, you want to
Mhm.
convert it the same HDD to SSD. Is it
Mm.
possible? Same thing out here also. You
Mhm.
cannot go ahead, or you cannot rather go ahead and, let's say, change this drive from an SSD to, sorry, from an HDD to an SSD, or from an
Mhm.
SSD to a HDD, meaning you cannot change the tier from standard to premium, premium to standard. This is not
Okay.
allowed. If you want to do that,
Mhm.
you have to delete your entire storage account, recreate it. Same
Okay.
applies to the region and the name. You cannot change the region, you cannot change the name, you cannot change the performance tier after you create it. So this is
Okay.
something that has to be taken care while creating it.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yes, and
Yeah,
recreate it.
I have a question
Yes,
here.
please go away. Just a second, I'll just come back to you. I'm just answering a
Okay,
question.
okay, okay.
Your data will get deleted also. There is, I mean, you have to have a local copy of your data before you delete it. So that's the reason we don't delete our storage accounts. We kind of live with it. It's standard good enough. So that's the reason you have a team of architectures who decide all these things before you actually go ahead and create it. You have all the scenarios that can go wrong, and once you decide all these things, then you derive onto what is the configuration that you need. Foresee, forecast a lot of things, analyze a lot of things, and then give you a proper analysis. That's the reason architecture is, architect. Someone, if you say someone is an architect, your position to an architect will only come after, let's say, 10 or 15 years. They consider an architect to be someone who's at least 10 years of experience. because you need to know all these things. So that's the reason architecture is a little, let's say, on a higher ground than, let's say, DevOps and all these things. So, yes, someone online had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are we are creating these accounts under resource group, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes, that's right.
that research group also has a region, right?
Resource group also has a region. Yes. Okay.
And so how that works? We are expecting the resource group to operate from one data center, and
Hmm.
when we are creating storage account and
Right.
we are choosing another region. So what is the
Hmm.
point of creating the region and one
Okay.
data center then? So how that
Again, resource group is not an actual resource. It's a virtual folder.
Mhm.
A resource group
Mhm.
has, let's say, even if I'm telling there's a region out there, there is no significance to that region. It's just a placeholder for you. The actual
Mhm.
region gets decided out here. The question can be that if my resource group is in a location called North Europe, can I create my storage account in a location called East US 2? You can do that. There is no correlation whatsoever between the location of your resource group and the location of your resources. So then what is the significance of it is that when you do some kind of, let's say, an automation, and you want to get all the resource groups out there, if they're in different locations, it will take some time to retrieve all of them. So it's just the call that takes some time, but there is no correlation between your resource group and the location of your resources. It can be in any location, but will that be how, I mean, will that be in a different location? No. Usually we put our resource group in the same location. Usually we put our resource groups in the same location. So if my resource group is in East US 2, uh, if you create a, no, yeah, sometimes it might give you that, let's say, sound like that, but it's being recorded. Don't worry about that. Yes. So any questions earlier? Yes, go ahead, please. Hmm. Data center, correct. So the question, your very good question is that if you're creating I mean, region out here, if this region is down, then how will you make sure that the data is available? Is that your question? That's the reason we have something called redundancy. We'll call it as something known as redundancy out here. This is something which will control how your data is being replicated, how many copies you get in your data. We'll talk about that right now. But before I go there, any questions with the above 3 pointers here?
Kiran,
Yes,
can't we
Jairus.
create all these resources at subscription level without creating
You
any
cannot
resource
create
group?
it at a subscription level. No, you cannot do it at a subscription level. You have to do it at a resource group level, because you cannot directly
So
put the
yeah,
resources at a subscription.
basically for every resource, we have to
Mhm.
be either creating a resource group or attaching it to the already available resources,
Attached to an
a
already
resource group.
existing resource group. Yes, that's right. So for every
Okay, so
resource, go
in
ahead, please.
real time, how will it work actually? Like, how do we create or categorize resource groups? Just an overview.
How do you categorize resource groups? Is that, for example, let's say I have multiple resources. This is one of the resource which is holding unstructured data, and I have 10 different storage accounts which is holding unstructured data out here. So I'll categorize everything into one resource group and say that the resource group is called data unstructured RG. If I have structured data, I'm holding it in, let's say, SQL databases. I'll create one more resource group and I'll say structured data RG. I'll categorize in that. So just like we do it in our local machines, that what, you have one folder for movies, the other folder for, let's say, books and all these things, right? In the same way, we also categorize, let's say, our resource groups also depending upon the type of the service that is holding out there.
Okay, like,
Excuse me.
will this also be suggested by the architects, or on our own we will create
Usually
the resource
architecture,
group and
yes. Usually architecture,
okay,
yes. That's right. It will be suggested by the
okay,
architecture.
thanks.
The
Yeah.
resource in one
Yeah.
region and the
Mhm.
resource group in other region, how the data will be retrieved from resource region or resource group region?
No, resource group, again and again, I was iterating, is that resource group is just like a folder, nothing to do with it. Data
In that,
actually stays here.
everything will be stored. Nothing will be stored in that resource group.
No, nothing will be stored in the resource group. Resource group just holds your resources. It's just a grouping of your resources. That's it. Your actual data
Grouping
is
the
not held
resources
in
in
the
one region.
I'm sorry.
Grouping resource group in one region.
hmm
Resources in another region. Which region the data will be stored? Resource region.
Yes, it's a resource region in which meaning you have your resource group in North Europe. I have my storage account in East US. Both are attached to each other. Your data will be stored in East US, not North Europe, because your region of of the resource group has no significance at all. It's just a virtual folder that exists on the cloud.
Okay, just
So this
virtual
is your
purpose.
actual resource which holds your data. This is where you hold your data out here.
Okay.
What is the difference in storing a structured data in SQL or something you said, or in this storage account?
You cannot store a structured data in storage account.
Okay.
Meaning structured data, if you're talking about structured data, I
Yes.
need to figure out a way to query structured data. Meaning I need to, let's say, know some kind of a language like MySQL, SQL, and etc. Write that language and get the data out there. This is a NoSQL, meaning you don't need a language. You can just go and retrieve the data out here. But this doesn't really support structured data. It's only unstructured data out here.
Okay. It just to save the data.
Save the data, yes. And again, do a lot of operations. We'll also see that on how do you store the data and all these things out.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have any tool to match both of these things? Again, you're telling me that can you enforce something so that you can, let's say, create your resource groups and resources in the same location? Yes, there is something called as an Azure policy. There's something called as a policy. You can create a policy telling that no resources should, let's say, be in a location other than ECS2. So users will not be able to create it in any other location. There's something known as a policy, role assignment, and all these things, which will come at a later point in time. But just giving you an overview, yes, it is possible. Now, very importantly, a lot of questions can come in this particular area, wherein when you are a client and when you want to go ahead and migrate all your data from, let's say, your local machines, or let's say from all the machines that are there in your premises into a storage account, the first question that I have to Microsoft is that, what is the guarantee that my data will be available? Because I'm now storing the data in some data center which I don't have any control on. So how do you make sure to give me an availability? Microsoft tells you that, in order to give you that particular answer, I'll need to understand what is the redundancy that you're operating on. And if I click on this particular box, it's called redundancy, or also called as replication. It's telling there is something called LRS, which is locally redundant storage. Let's talk about what this is. This is the cheapest option that is available out there. And let's see what you get here. And in order to see what you get here, again, click on this and I'll go into the official documentation to understand what Microsoft actually tells you. And Microsoft has got a very good documentation to explain what is LRS and all these things. So the thing here is that, let's say you have a file, you are using a file right now, and you're storing this file into a storage account of Azure that is sitting in a data center, or which is, let's say, operating out of a data center called EastUS2. Now, in one data center, you can have multiple servers. I'm talking about actual physical servers right now. In one data center, you might have, let's say, thousands of servers out there. And when I select something called as an LRS, Microsoft tells you that, what? I will make 3 copies of your same file. So it's not one. If you give me one, I'll multiply it. I'll make the second copy. I'll make the third copy. And these 3 files will be sitting on 3 different servers, will be stored on 3 different servers out here. So just in case if your first server goes down, you still have your secondary and the tertiary data copy available. So your data is not lost. So that's the reason, if you look at this is what it's telling. In the diagram, this is what they're explaining right now. It's telling this is the data center, primary region called East US2. Let's say I'm creating a storage account in a region called East US2 out here. It's telling in this particular storage account, in this particular, let's say, data center, there are multiple servers and I create 3 copies for you in the same data center. Now I go ahead and out of curiosity ask Microsoft that, you know what, today at let's say 9:39 p.m. or 9:39 a.m. sorry, I went ahead and I stored the file 1. Can you tell me what is the time that you will, let's say, take to create the second copy and the third copy, because I'm giving you a first copy. So you'll also have to tell me what is the time you need to take for the second and the third copy. Microsoft tells you that, you know what, I will give you in the very second. I will replicate the data in the very second. So if you give me 1 copy, I will make it 3 copies in the very second. This is called as a synchronous copy operation happening in the same time. It's called as a synchronous. So if you even look at the documentation, let's erase this out and let's see this. Selling least durability and all these things. A write request to a storage account that is using happens synchronously, meaning at the same second when you give me for one file, I'll take it and I'll multiply it 3 times and I'll put it on 3 different, let's say, servers on my data center. So happening at the same time synchronously out here. But the question that I want to ask Microsoft is that, as an architect, I am now concerned that, you know what, if the entire data center goes down, LRS is, it cannot really help me out here, right? Because if the entire data center goes down, no matter even if I give you 100 copies in the same data center, it's still not worth it. Then I'm asking Microsoft, then how can you give me 100% availability out here? Microsoft tells you, you know what, I don't give you 100%. I give you a number. That number is called as an SLA, service level agreement. Microsoft tells you that I will provide you, this is the number that I'll provide you. It's not 100. It's not 100 out here still. It is 99.999999 to 11 times 9 out here. Meaning Microsoft is telling you that, you know what, if you request for your data, out of every 100 times, your data will be available, let's say 99.99999 and so on. But if still the data center is not, I mean, if the data center is down, then no matter how much ever SLA I give you, your data will not be available. It's very simple. A very straightforward answer there is telling you that, you know what, Microsoft will, you know, come back to you and tell that, you know what, you should have been a little more careful in that case. You should have opted for another redundancy option, which comes down to the second model that I have, or second model that Azure has, is called ZRS, Zone Redundant Storage. What do you mean by zone redundant storage out here is that I'm talking about a region here called East US2. When I'm talking about the East US2, it's the entire coastline of the entire East US, right? East US is a very big region. It might have many cities out here like Philadelphia, New York, a lot of things out here that fall in that particular coastline out here. Microsoft has multiple data centers in a lot of cities, like, you know, in a lot of cities out there. They call it as zones, meaning each and every data center is called as a zone right now. Microsoft is telling that, you know what, if you go for zone redundant storage, I will give you, let's come down to zone redundant storage out here. I will give you copies of data, 3 copies, but here the diagram is changed. It is not in a single data center. It is spread across 3 different data centers that are connected to each other using, let's say, actual wires, physical cables, and all these things. So it's now telling you that, you know what, yes, I will give you 3 copies, great, I will give you this, but these 3 copies will be spread across 3 different data centers out here. So now coming back to your question, if the first data center is down, you still have data center 2, data center 3 coming up to help you out here. Let's say go ahead and let's say give you the data out here. That's the reason Microsoft is telling that the SLA is slightly better here, which is 99.9999 to 12 times 9. It just increased 1 9 out here additionally. Now what does this mean for me as a user is that, let's talk about this. Let's go ahead and type in something called as high availability. Let's look at a Wikipedia document, and this is what the industry normally follows. If it is 99.9 times 9, which is the highest in this table, you can expect a downtime of about 86.40 microseconds per day. Microsecond, I'm not talking about, let's say, millisecond, I'm talking about a microsecond. Meaning per a year, you can expect a downtime of 31.56 milliseconds. Meaning if this is the availability, your data can be not available for 31.56 milliseconds. This is 99.9 times 9. The least availability what Azure offers you is 99.11 times 9. This is even more less. So if you go down, let's say 90, it is downtime per a year is somewhere around 36 days per a year, meaning 1 month your data will not be available. But this is not at all promised by the cloud. Cloud acts here 99.9999 and so on and so forth. Reason being, it's a little costly. Reason being, it is a little costly out there. So if I come down to ZRS, ZRS is telling you it is 12 times 9, great. But my architecture, again, 12 times over a given year. Over a given year, this is what it is. But my architecture can still come down and tell you that, my client can still come down and tell you that, what if the entire region is not available? The entire East US2 is not available. Can it not be available? Very rare case scenario, let's say you have a major catastrophe like a tsunami or something like that which is occurring and the entire East Coast is affected. It's a major catastrophe, but still I need to factor this out. I need to tell that, you know what, one copy of my data should be in one region called East US2, the other copy should stay in another region which is thousands of kilometers away. That brings you to the next availability option, which is called GRS, Geo Redundant Storage. It's called GRS out here, Geo Redundant Storage. So if you look at GRS, let's go here into data redundancy, just scroll down and let's see this. You have two different data centers spread across two different regions of the, let's say one particular continent. Let's say if I go ahead and select the primary region as East US2, the secondary region is either going to be Central US or West US2. Secondary region is something that I cannot control. Microsoft allocates this to me. I don't have a control on this. Primary is something that I can talk about. Secondary is something, let's say it's Central US or West US or something like this. This is something which is allocated to me by the cloud provider. Not, I cannot go ahead and tell the cloud provider, you know, I need in this particular region. No, it's controlled by the cloud provider. Again, in the primary region, you are going to get an LRS, 3 copies. In the secondary region also you are going to get an LRS. So totally you are going to get 6 copies of your data spread across 2 different data centers that are staying in 2 different Azure regions of the world. And I now ask Microsoft that, you know what, if I give you 1 copy here, Microsoft tells you that, you know what, I'll make 3 copies synchronously. I'll now ask Microsoft that, is this also a synchronous replication? Microsoft says, no, this is not a synchronous. This is an asynchronous replication of the data because data centers are very far away from each other. It then copies your data asynchronously to a single physical region hundreds of miles away from the primary data center. Asynchronous might take somewhere around 30 minutes for your data to be copied. It might take about 30-45 minutes for your data to be copied. There is no number. Again, depends upon the amount of data that you're asking Microsoft to copy out there. So that's the reason Microsoft is not giving you a proper number here. So these are something called as the replication model in Azure. These are the available replication models that you do have out here. Any questions here, guys? Again, you might argue that what if the entire, you know, the primary and the secondary region is going down? Then I'm sorry, Azure cannot really help you out. If all the region is now going down, it means that the entire continent is going down, which is a major global catastrophe. So no one is really concerned about the business. And GRS offers you the best redundancy, which is 16 times 9. So if you can compare this chart, 99.9 is giving me 31.56 milliseconds over a given year. Imagine what will 99.16 times give me. So it's a very, very good redundancy out here. Reason being, the cost is also like that. In the cost, what you kind of pay is also the same way out here. Is any questions here, guys?
Yeah, I have a question here.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are choosing region, right? So
Okay.
keeping the latency in view only, we are choosing, right? So we are
Correct.
always choose the proximity region. Now, so now when
Correct.
we opt for geo redundancy storage,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
now, are we compromising the latency because we don't know from where
Definitely,
that
it's
is?
that's
Yeah.
right. We are compromising the latency. We are compromising the latency in the scenario where your primary data center is not available. And the primary data center, cannot be available for not more than, let's say, 20 milliseconds per year. So can you, let's say, compromise on that? Definitely yes. Meaning my data should be
Okay.
available even with some amount of latency. If the user is able to get the data, my business is still running. My business is still running. It's not down. So that's what I'm compromising on.
Excuse me.
Good, please.
Okay.
In geo-redundant storage,
Mhm.
there are two regions where the data is getting maintained.
Correct.
The second region would be a backup only, or else it also be active simultaneously.
It is a backup region. It's not active simultaneously. Either one of your data centers is active at one given point in time. So
Okay.
this is now considered as a backup. In case your primary is not available, we do a failover to the secondary. It's called a
Mhm.
failover or a fallback. It's called a
Okay.
failover right now. So if the primary is not available, I'll fail over to a secondary out there.
Mhm. Okay.
Yes, and you, yes. Go ahead, please. Okay. Yes, depending upon the amount of data that you have. Correct. Yes, your data will not be available. Like your data will not be available. It's you cannot. I mean, you cannot have your data. Meaning the question here is that I am doing a GRS. It's an asynchronous replication that's happening right now. Meaning it will take some time. So I did some change, and the next minute my data center went down. Then it's a very bad day for you. I'm really sorry about that. It's a very bad day for you. Again, the SLA is good enough. So again, we use, in the organizations we normally use GRS, and I've been with this particular storage service over, let's say, about 6 years now, and we never did a failover till now. We never did a failover till now. If it's a failover, it's a major issue for Microsoft. So we never did a failover until now. So it's just a backup condition out there that I'm talking about. Good. Okay. No, it depends upon the redundancy that you take. So for LRS, ZRS, it's a synchronous replication. So you don't have to worry about how much time it's going to take. But for GRS, it's going to be asynchronous. So the amount of time it will take depends upon the amount of volume of the data that you have at that given point in time. It takes more time, yes. For copying of data, replication of data will take more. Sorry? Because of a different region. Because Microsoft makes sure that two regions are separated at least, let's say, thousands of kilometers apart from each other. So that just in case something happens, synchronous method will come into picture. Same region, yes.
Is there any option that two regions can be active at the same time?
Is there an option that two regions can be active at the same time? No. Two regions cannot be active at the same time as such. If you want to do something like that, you need two different storage accounts. One in the other region, then the other in the other region, and both active at the same time. So if you're doing something like that, then it's always two storage accounts. But in one storage account, both the regions cannot be active at the same time as such.
Mhm. Okay.
Yes, data is huge. Yes. However your data is, like whatever your data structure is, the same will be maintained in the backup also. So if you're copying file A, file B, file C, even Azure will do file A, file B, file C in the region 2. Sorry? No, no. Data won't change. The structure will be the same. Data won't change. So data won't change. The structure of the data will be persisted. No, it's not done. Same data, same amount of file size, same thing will be, let's say, occupied in, let's say, the other region also. That's right, but I don't have to really worry about those softwares here, right? Because this is now being taken care by Microsoft. Correct, correct. But you'll have to still take care of those tools. You still have to install those tools. You'll have to maintain those tools, right? I'm not even maintaining anything right now. So that's what I'm now telling is that yes, it is superior than the tools that we use out there. Meaning, I think you might be coming from a storage background. Maybe you are, let's say, handling one storage out here, making a copy of it, etc. I'm not doing that right now. I'm completely relying upon the cloud to, let's say, go ahead and do this for me. So in the backend, Azure is, it's Azure's headache. I'm paying for Azure, it's Azure's headache right now. Okay. Any questions, guys? Any questions still here?
Do we have any storage classes defined? Like in
I'll just come
AWS, we
back to
have
you in a
these
second.
standard
I,
and others.
I'll just come back to you in a second, Srikant. Just give me, Srinath, I'll just give me a second. Yes, go ahead, please. Yes. Yes. Again, when you say it's a zone, you still cannot control what are the data centers that you have. Yes, can you just give me a second? You just cannot control what is the data center that you have. You're just saying what is the zone. Let's say East US 2. I don't have a control on what is the actual city where my data is being replicated. So that's taken care by Azure. So even if I tell it is local redundant storage and I'm telling it is East US 2, there can be one of the data centers that is available at that given point in time. Azure is going and allocating your data out there. So you still do not have a control on what is the region. You cannot go till that particular point and tell, this is a region, this is a place where I need the data. So it's still controlled by the cloud provider. No, you cannot. You cannot do that because data center allocation completely depends upon the availability of the server at that given point in time. So you cannot really do that out there. So you'll have to just say you can just have a control on what is the region, but you cannot have a control on what is the location that is there in that particular region. You cannot do that. Yes, Srinath, you had a question. Can you please go now? Okay, I'll circle back on that. So let's go ahead and say local redundant storage. And there are a couple of more options which we'll need to explore. But since we have a dearth of time right now, I'll just go ahead and try to review and create this out. I'll say review and create. And I will now start going ahead and creating a storage account out here. Let's see how it looks like after creation. So now it's telling validation has been passed. And I'll say create this out. And this will now tell it's initializing a deployment. And it is trying to deploy or it's trying to create a storage account inside the resource group that let's say that I have laid down out there. So now it will take like around a minute or two for this particular storage account to be created. Once it's created, let's go ahead and also look at how a storage account looks like, what we can do with that and all these things out. So let's go ahead and refresh this out. And now it's telling this is being created right now. So Microsoft has accepted your request and Microsoft is now going ahead and creating a storage account for you in a region called East US2 out here. And give it a minute and this will fairly be, let's say it'll take a minute or so and it will tell the deployment is done. You can go to the resource as such. Now the question is that, again, coming down to the user management yesterday that we were talking about, we are adding users at different levels, right? Now let's say my concern is that I have a user who's just or who just needs to, let's say, look into the data. That's it. Can I go ahead and add him to the storage account? Of course, yes. IAM also has a support at individual resource levels also. So let's also look at that. So right now the account is created. I'll say go to the resource. You have something called access controls out here. This is at a storage account level, not at a subscription, not at a resource group. Meaning in one resource group, I created storage accounts for the developer, QA, everyone. I just need the developer to have access to this particular storage account. You can go ahead, add him an access. I'll say role assignment. And now the concern is that the developer should have access to the data, but he shouldn't delete the data, or he shouldn't be able to, let's say, modify the data or something like that. Or he shouldn't delete, or he should be able to modify the data inside the storage account, but he shouldn't have the access to delete the resource group. If I give him a contributor, he can go and delete all these things. That's the reason there is something called storage role. Storage account backup contributor, storage account contributor, storage account blob data contributor, reader, and all these things. So you can assign a role something like storage account contributor. It's telling, you know what, It's lets you manage the storage account, including access the storage account keys. We'll look at what are keys and all these things. Provides full access to the storage account data, not the resource group. So you cannot go and delete your resource groups as such. So you can now drill down on individual roles. So this is what role assignment actually means to me. So if I want to give someone a role called contributor for a particular storage account, I'll just go ahead and assign them this particular role, not the entire contributor as such. Because an entire contributor is a little dangerous, because user can still go ahead and delete all the storage accounts, resource groups, and all these things out. So that's the reason I can go ahead and let's say and give him something. And if he only wants to read, write, and access the data, it's called storage blob data contributor. Only the data contributor as such. Cannot even delete the storage account. Delete the data, not the storage. Can delete the data still, but if you still want to, let's say, drill it down, storage blob data reader, only read. Depending upon what you want to achieve, or you want a custom role, you can go and create a custom role, assign a couple of things, and then assign it to the user. Is any questions, guys? Yes, you can give a reader also. Yes, they'll be having a visibility. You can also give a reader also, but he can yeah, so he can read the storage account. If you give a reader or at a resource group level, he can see the storage account but not the data inside the storage account. Nothing. He'll just be able to see the name of the storage account like the way you see it here. So if I go here into the resource group, I'll just be able to see that there is one storage account out here, but I cannot go inside the storage account and cannot see the data inside the storage account and etc. if I'm a reader. But if I am a storage blob data reader, I can read the data inside the storage account. That's the difference. You can still go and delete the storage account if you're a contributor at the storage account level. But if you are a data contributor, you cannot delete the storage account. You can only delete the data inside the storage account. So it depends upon what is the role that you're assigning out here. Yes, any questions before I close, guys? Anyone, any questions before we close?
Yeah. Basically, I was asking, do you have any
Mhm.
storage classes in Azure?
When you say storage classes, what exactly are you pointing out to? Can you please elaborate
Yeah,
on that a little?
basically, like while browsing into AWS, we have these storage classes like frequently used, infrequently used,
Okay.
standard, and these type of differentiations. Like if you want to store any archived data or store
Okay.
something big amount of data, which we
Okay.
frequently will not use that would be like glacier
Okay.
storage or
I
deep
understand your
archive.
question. Like archiving your data or just storing your data out there by minimizing your
Yeah,
cost.
so these type
Yes.
of differentiations,
Yes. You
do you
have
have
that.
these in Azure?
Mhm. You have that. You have that. We'll talk about that as well. You have those kind of scenarios as well in Azure as well. Like most of the
Yeah,
cloud
like
providers.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
So in AWS we have these for standard at a cheaper price.
Mhm.
AWS provides that, and for deep
Again,
archive glacier they have
again we
this.
had a standard and a premium here also, right? So we said standard, then you get a HDD cheaper option, premium SSD
Yeah,
costlier option, frequently
yeah,
infrequently access data. Yes, you will also have some kind of an option where you can control it out. So yes,
okay,
most of the cloud providers that are available out there in the market, they do the same technology. Like my
okay.
sorry, AWS also has a similar storage, let's say, service out there, which is called as an S3 bucket. We call it as a storage
Yes,
account
yes,
out here. So it
yes.
just is, the nomenclature is different, I mean the naming convention is different, but what it does underlying is the same thing out there, available out there.
Okay,
Yes, any more
thanks.
questions, guys? Yes. Databases. Yes, we use a query language, but you as a DevOps engineer are not expected to have a query language background. Query language like SQL, MySQL, you can use MySQL SQL in order to retrieve the data, which is structured in nature, which is stored in a DBMS. You are expected, meaning, but the query language is expected from a database administrator or DB and all these things. We as DevOps engineers are let's say expected to understand the database from an infrastructure perspective. We'll talk about that as well. We have a structured data class as well, but I'm not going into the SQL, like into the SQL language of it. The very minimal of it, like what you need as a DevOps engineer to understand. That's the only thing I'll cover out. Yes. Okay, guys. So that's it from my end today. Thank you, and we'll meet tomorrow and discuss more on this particular topic. Thanks, guys.